Live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Friday, April 7th. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by Bet365. And we are closing out the work week and closing out the regular season, because I'm not going to care at all about Saturday and Sunday, even though I do have a show on Sunday for the NBA, which should be a real treat.
Yeah,
Hit the like button. Are you really? I think it's Laffy.
No,
is it you now?
Yeah,
okay.
Laffy took off.
Oh, yeah, Laffy took off.
Laffy's a very, very religious person who took off for Easter, yeah.
He also has a kid, so I get that piece, too. You and I don't have shit else to do. It's going to be bad, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just going to be... It's a casual show at that point in time.
Yeah,
this is Adam Scherer, everybody. I'm Josh Engleman. We're not going to be able to provide real context on Sunday. That's just not even going to be possible. Half the games start later, which is going to be an even bigger treat for everything. What did you think of yesterday?
I thought it was really stupid and it sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, I tweeted it. Like, I think I probably could have entered 10,000 lineups yesterday and just not one, because I don't know that I ended up with a single lineup that didn't have one of Wagner or Rubio. Not to mention, there were other pieces that sucked. Like Embiid was awful. Harden was awful. Like,
remember when we joked about Danny Green on the show?
Yeah. Danny Green had a big game. Kyle Lowry had still not you didn't need him, but Kyle Lowry actually had a big game, which I noticed because he was the guy from Miami that I specifically was just like, I don't know, like, why would you play Kyle Lowry? And then he went out and puts up like 30.
You said the same thing about Dario Saric, and he smashed in 23 minutes too. I felt like he was fully unplayable. Just a tire fire across the board yesterday. Cleveland flipped it on its head by just like having the inverse of everything you expected happen.
Yeah, I mean, the Cleveland guys that smashed were Mobley, Green, Diakite, Chetty, which we actually expected.
I mean, Chetty went for 32. Like, that worked and all, but
I mean, he beat James Harden.
I did not expect Cleveland to have no one crest 40 and only two guys beat 32.
Yeah.
Like, that was not something that I expected. Just gross across the board. And now we've got today, which I assume by the time we get to 7:00, it looks like a worse version of yesterday, where you're paying for the top end and you're paying for raw points and you have free spaces at the bottom. There weren't as many spots throughout this as I expected, but then you get to the end of the night where Sacramento and Phoenix might be the two best value options on the entire slate, potentially. And we might not know that, and they are the two late night hammers. It's going to get ridiculous. We got a lot to break down. You want to get this started?
By the way, did you see how many minutes Kevin Durant played yesterday?
I did not, but you can tell
41. And he only scored 46 DraftKings points.
I mean, I don't want to say that I assume you needed him, but like, that still worked for yesterday, right? That's still one of like the 4 or 5 highest scoring guys.
Did not need him at all.
I mean, he's the second highest scorer. Like, he's got to be in the optimal lineup, right?
Was he in the winning lineup?
I mean, I don't know if he was in the winning lineup, but I assume he's all over an optimal crunch.
He was not in the winning lineup.
How owned was he?
What?
How owned was he?
18%.
Okay. That's surprising to me then.
Yeah, I mean, he scored the same basically as like Zach Collins, Chris Dunn, Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown.
Yeah, but does that matter?
Yes, because if you played Durant, you were more likely to have Rubio or Wagner or these terrible.
That's a good point. So if I run this, I'm just going to run
like you could have played potentially like Kevin Durant over SGA because he beat SGA, but like you didn't need Durant specifically.
If you run the top 100 on actuals, he's in 64 of them.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. But like, you're immediately getting Danny Green in 2/3 of the lineups. And like, that was just not going to be something that people are landing on. Yeah, to get to the tippy top of optimal, last night was a night where you just needed the highest scores. So Durant gets you there, but not necessarily a great play when you're fitting together the pieces based on, pre-lock construction. Oh my God, this is fucking awful. You ready to do this?
Sure.
I can't believe I didn't know that he played 40 minutes. That's hilarious. The Houston Rockets are, for right now, 2.5-point favorites in Charlotte. The first two games that we're going to talk about are actually pretty easy to talk about. Rockets are 2.5-point favorites in Charlotte, 228 total. And the Rockets haven't had anything to play for weeks. Nobody is on their injury report right now. So I assume we're getting the exact same thing we've been getting out of Houston. Now, that said, since we're going to have unlimited value, I think there's basically like 3.5 guys you can get to here from Houston. How do you feel about the Rockets, guys?
Yeah, Şengün, Porter, Jalen Green, all perfectly fine. Good matchup, playing huge minutes, even though they're not playing for anything. Jabari Smith at 6,400, I think you can make a case for as well. KJ Martin, at 5,500. But on an 11-game slate, I would expect that I'm pretty much just getting Şengün, Porter, Green.
I agree. And I would say that Green and Porter are the preferred options over Şengün, just because we are going to talk about some centers and potentially a lot of value centers.
Sure.
And this is just a raw points thing. Like, I've got Jabari at 32 fantasy points. That's about as low as you're going to get for anybody that's priced normally. Like, you can't project much lower than that and end up in a lineup here. You're just not, like, that whole area is a wasteland. The mid tier of 30 fantasy point guys is a tough spot to be in for today. Any other like preferences here for Houston? I think they're pretty cut and dry to talk about.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Similar-ish story on the Charlotte side, in that they have nothing to play for. They haven't had LaMelo Ball, Rozier, Oubre, Martin, Hayward, PJ Washington for a while. Q-tag on Dennis Smith Jr., I assume they're like playing him if he's back. But as I look at Charlotte, given the fact that everybody else is already here and priced accordingly, there's not a lot that I want to get to in a GPP other than Mark Williams, assuming he starts. And even then, that's not a priority play.
Yeah, Mark Williams, assuming he starts, looks fine. But like you said, there's going to be a lot of good centers that you can get to. Dennis Smith Jr., if he's in at 6,600, looks fine. Not like a priority, but similar to Mark Williams. And then after that, I don't really think there's anything.
Yeah. If DSJ ends up out, I don't really think that changes anything either.
I mean, it makes Teo Maledon playable if you want to gamble on him at 7K. He's playing big minutes, but 7K is still a healthy price tag.
These are all like 5% or lower ownership type guys.
Like if he's out, it makes Svi Mikhailuk look better as well, but he's also priced up.
Yeah. Playing a $6,800 Svi Mikhailuk on an 11-game NBA slate when, like 6 teams are going to be fake feels like a real recipe for hating yourself in the middle of the night.
Yep.
That's one where I wake up and hope that I accidentally poured bleach instead of water in my cup. I got nothing else to say for this game. It's one of the easier games to talk about because there's just not, like, there's no ambiguity for both sides.
Yeah, I wish that they all looked like this.
Well, the next one does too. It's the Detroit Pistons, 7-point dogs in Indiana, 230 total. Pistons have Q tags on Omer Uri and Livers, but Marvin Bagley is back and probable. I thought he was done. Now he's just here. Everybody else that had been out is out. No Cade, Burks, Magruder, Diallo, Bogdanovich, or Beef Stew. If Bagley's back, I assume that we're going back to Duren Wiseman splitting center minutes. So to me, when I look at the Pistons, it's Jaden Ivey, maybe Killian Hayes, maybe Marvin Bagley, but probably like Ivy and nothing.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, Ivy would be the guy that I expect to get to the most just because, again, he's the highest projected guy, and that's what's really going to matter today. Hayes at 5,800 is certainly playable, but it's just that you're not going to need guys in that price range that look decent all that often. So Ivy probably the one I get to the most. Hayes probably second.
Can't play Duren or Wiseman today, right? Assuming they don't start alongside each other?
Assuming they don't start alongside each other, I think it's really difficult because their prices came up. There's so many good centers. And if they're not starting alongside each other, you're back to, hoping that you get the one that plays 26 minutes, which on this slate, you probably still don't really care about.
All righty. I don't think there's anything else to talk about for the Pistons. Even if we lose Omer Uri and Livers, like, I don't think that we're creating anything that we really need to get to, right? That, like, these guys are already at prices where it's probably not going to matter.
Yeah, I don't think it matters.
Okay. On the Indiana side, similar story, but We have a Q tag on Jalen Smith. We have a Q tag on TJ McConnell. We already know that there's no Halliburton or Duarte. Once again, it's a Q tag on Miles Turner. It would blow my mind if that dude plays today, but they're not ruling him out. I assume for a reason. I don't really understand what they're doing here. And I see Indiana very, very difficult to get to if those Q tags play. This just looks like a team of like 8 dudes projected for 30 fantasy points.
Yeah, if the Q tags are in, it's really tough to get to anything. It's another situation where, like, yeah, you have a cheap Isaiah Jackson, you have Jalen Smith at 5,700. They both could be fine for their salaries, but on the slate, you're probably just not really going to be getting to them splitting the center minutes. There's nothing else that's going to look particularly good. If a bunch of guys sit, then it becomes a little bit different. Like if Jalen Smith is out, that certainly makes Isaiah Jackson look a bit better. If TJ McConnell's out, you're expecting more minutes for Benedict Mathurin, Jordan Nwora, Andrew Nemhard. But even then, at their respective salaries, I don't know how much it ends up really mattering.
Yeah, I don't like Nwora and Mathurin would look good normally in this spot, right. But at the same time, like they're just sort of just exist.
Right. Like even they look actively bad if everybody is in the context of the slate. And then if they're out, they look okay, but
okay, let's say that we lose Jalen Smith. Do you think that we're going to get relevant minutes for Isaiah Jackson?
Probably. Like I think you would get James Johnson or Daniel Tice as the backup. So it's not like, you wouldn't be in a situation where Isaiah Jackson has to just go play 38 minutes or something. But I think it would increase the chances of him getting, 28, 30 minutes.
You see my response?
Yeah.
I don't think it matters. I'm treating it like I'll never even look at it right now. It doesn't matter. You know what we're going to end up seeing. Yeah. I have nothing else here for the Pacers. I think these first 2 games that we talked about are basically irrelevant other than play the guys that have the highest projections and don't play anybody else.
Yeah, that's how I see it as well. There's not likely from any of those teams unless we get a lot of news between now and lock. None of those teams are likely to end up being the teams where it's like, oh, they're really shorthanded and there's a bunch of value here. They are likely to be the teams where it's like, oh, well, this guy could just go score 50 fantasy points and be useful.
Okay, so we've got 2 games down. Hit that like button if you're here. Schedule for the rest of the day. Coming up at noon, MLB strategy show. That's going to be Neil breaking things down. We've got the Underdog NBA show coming in at 1:30. The Odd Shop over on the Odd Shopper YouTube channel. That goes off at 4. Adam will be back for the deeper dive at 5. And then you'll get NBA Live Before Lock from 6 until 7:30. Going to be a crazy one. You're going to want to make sure you're around for the deeper dive and Live Before Lock, folks. Now, the Miami Heat, 5.5-point favorites in Washington against your Wizards. Here's the status for the Heat, because now we're going to have to start worrying about some things. They are 95% to be the 7 seed. They do not have the tiebreaker with the Nets. The Nets are ahead of them. They do have the tiebreaker against the Hawks. The Heat want to win this game in theory. They have an outside chance to get to 6 and get out of the play-in. They got to win them both. They need the Nets to lose. It's not a likely scenario, but that's where we stand for Miami. Washington is obviously dog shit across the board. Sorry, buddy. We don't know the status of Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo. Kyle Lowry is out. For right now, I'm assuming those 3 guys play. Because why wouldn't they? If they still have an outside chance at the 6, you at least go for it at least a little bit. That's the way that I'm treating it, which means you can play Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, and Jimmy Butler and play a decent amount of them and play no one else. But this could also go a very different direction.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. Obviously just need more information right now, but if they're in, it's very similar to what we had yesterday. Those 3 guys are the 3 guys on this team that realistically have a chance of scoring 50 plus fantasy points for you. And realistically, nobody else is. I'm not going to call anybody by name because then they will, but generally like none of the rest of these guys have the same raw point upside as Butler, Bam, Hero. So it's another team where none of the value is good enough on an 11 game early April slate that you're going to be wanting to get to them from a point per dollar standpoint, and they don't offer enough raw point upside. So it's Butler, Hero, Bam if they're in. If they're out, obviously that changes. You already have Lowry out. So it wouldn't take a lot for a $3,500 Oladipo to start being interesting. Potentially a $4,400 Vincent if like all of those guys were to sit, then you're probably looking at, Strus and Martin as well. But Oladipo, I guess, is the cheap guy that I'm keeping my eye on because he's the cheapest of the group. He is a solid point per minute guy, especially if you were to get like Jimmy Butler out and you can get Oladipo more minutes without Butler on the floor. He could potentially open up as an actual good value play.
And if we happen to lose, multiple of those versions, maybe you can get to $3,200 power forward Duncan Robinson.
That's a position.
I mean, what the fuck are we doing there? He's a 6'3" white dude. I don't know how tall he is for real, but it's not.
I think he's 6'7".
No, we can't be 6'7". He's listed as 6'7". That feels false. I knew I went too low with the stereotype right out of the gate, but I promise you that he's never played a second at power forward. In the NBA.
He definitely does not play power forward.
But if we start losing guys 3,200, he'll at least shoot. He's going to be out there for it. So buckle up for Miami. This one matters. The good news for Miami, we're going to know this one. So,
and if you want a narrative, if you want a narrative, it is Oladipo homecoming. So maybe they just let him go out there and play 38 minutes.
Okay, that's where we're at right now.
I mean, why not? It's not any more ridiculous than everything else on this slate.
Oh, yeah, we'll see a lot more ridiculous stuff than that narrative. Now we go to your Wizards. So keep an eye on the Heat news throughout the day, but we will get that before 7. For the Heat, DeLon Wright is available. He's off the injury report. No Denny, Monty Morris, Bradley Beal, Kyle Kuzma, Kristaps Porzingis. So, yikes. This one's really easy. Even with DeLon Wright, like now that DeLon Wright is in, if this were a normal slate, it'd be like, okay, DeLon Wright looks fine. I don't think you can play anybody from Washington.
Why is DeLon Wright playing?
I mean, DeLon Wright, man.
But like, just why? What's the point for the Wizards? Like, just get Johnny Davis and Jordan Goodwin and Kendrick Nunn more minutes.
I mean, I would say the same thing for Daniel Gafford.
I 100% would, except they don't have any. They don't have any like centers that he's keeping from playing. Like Jay Huff is still getting his minutes. We really don't care about Isaiah Todd. Taj Gibson is more meaningless than Gafford. Like Gafford at least, and Gafford himself is like relatively young and raw, kind of. Sure. But like DeLon Wright is just like a veteran playing on this garbage Washington team. I don't totally get it, but yeah, I'm with you. It just makes everything look like shit.
Yeah, like I legitimately don't think there's a guy that would show up other than Wright, and I don't think Wright's going to be showing up all that much. But I have everybody else under 30 fantasy points.
I mean, if Jay Huff plays 30 minutes again, he's a good play.
Yeah, but like you can't project it.
No, he's played 27. He's played 27 and 30 in the 2 games he's played. The previous game where Taj Gibson was the backup behind Gafford, Gibson played 16 and a half. Like you have to keep in mind that that's in the range of outcomes for Huff, that he just plays like 18 minutes, 20 minutes. There's so many centers. Like, I don't think you can actually play him, but if I guess if I'm pointing to guys on Washington where it's just like, oh, they had a massive game at their price, I think Jay Huff would be like the first one that I guess that.
He is up to 4,600 now too. It's not the same free square that you had before, but to get to Huff today, realistically, he has to be the starter. And I'd be shocked if that's the case.
Or play starter minutes.
Right.
To get to him ahead of time, yes.
Yeah.
If he starts, he's a good value. But yeah, like he could play starter minutes, but that's going to be like a hindsight, like, oh, Jay Huff played 30 minutes again. I wish I'd played him.
There's no way to project that.
Right. If he's not starting, you can't just say like, oh yeah, well, I still think he's playing 30.
Yeah.
He's probably, I guess he's like the main guy on this team that I look to similarly to like an Isaiah Mobley yesterday, where it's just like at the end of the night, you could very easily look at this game and a bunch of dumb shit happened and Jay Huff went nuts.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Which game did I miss? Orlando, Memphis, the Knicks. Got it. Sorry, talking to myself here, I realized that I had some weird shit pasted in my stuff. All right, so we're done with Washington. To me, they're like one of the easier teams to just draw a line through.
Pretty much.
Not the same sort of scenario here. Philadelphia 76ers, 9.5-point dogs in Atlanta, 234 total. Sixers are full stop locked into the 3 seed. The Hawks currently 96% to be the 8. Slight chance that they could fall to the 9. And they definitely don't want to do that. So Philly is a crapshoot. Atlanta should be playing to win this one aggressively. For Philly, we don't know anything that they're doing, which is kind of annoying. This is one of the trickier spots that we have, at least for right now. We will get added clarification as the day goes on, but we do not have an injury report here. Philly played yesterday. Everybody was in but Maxey. So we kind of have to play the hypothetical game. I don't know what they're going to do. Seems like they'd probably not play their starting 5 and Melton, but maybe they play Maxey today because he didn't play yesterday. Maybe you play Tobias Harris because he's been able to take the past 6 months off by being the 5th guy for the Sixers. I don't know. So let's start here. I think, assuming we get a bunch of guys out for Philly, that $3,900 Shake Milton stands out pretty aggressively.
Yeah, so right now we have it projected, it looks like, with Embiid out, Harden out, Harris, Maxey in, Melton out. I don't know exactly how we came up with those guesses, but that's what we have projected right now. And I think it's a very reasonable approach.
Yeah.
There's nothing I look at and I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Perfectly fine. Melton, could play. I feel relatively confident that Embiid and Harden are not playing. I
don't know why they would.
I have no idea why they would. Rivers did have the quote before the game yesterday that they have a plan for how to close out the season. I assume part of that plan is not playing them on a meaningless back-to-back. So assuming that for now, just going with what we have projected in, which I think is perfectly reasonable. Shake Milton at 3,900 would certainly look like a good value. We have him projected around 28 DraftKings points. Obviously has the potential to do better than that. Paul Reed would look okay at 5K if he's starting. McDaniels is up to 4,100, so still wouldn't be that interesting. Harris still wouldn't really be that interesting. His price tag also jumped $1,000 overnight. You could certainly get to Maxey if they're both out.
If they're both out, I think Maxey is a guy you're getting to. He's the first guy you're getting to behind Milton.
We only have Maxey projected for 31.5 points, so I'm really confused what we did there.
How many minutes did we give him?
That's what I'm looking at now.
It's got to be 27. Okay. It would surprise me if he plays 27 minutes.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like yesterday, they played actual rotations for their guys. Joel Embiid played 18.5 minutes in the first half. He played 30 minutes in 3 quarters, and then the game blew out. I do think that if they play Maxey, it's likely to make sure he's, still in game, stays in game shape and, all of that. So I think he would be playing big minutes if he plays.
I would not go to anything lower than 30 for any starter for Philadelphia.
For any starter?
Assuming Maxey's in and Harris is in, the way that we have it right now.
You mean they're
30
actual
to Milton.
Starters?
Yeah, 30 to Milton. Yeah. Guys that normally play.
Yeah.
Tobias Harris.
I was like, I don't think you project Paul Reed for 30 plus minutes.
No, but if Harris and Maxey happen to be playing today, I can't project anything lower than 30.
Yeah, I'm there with you. And it's probably more.
And if that's the case, then Harris and Maxey are the guys you go to other than Shake. Shake being 3,900 is a different play.
Agreed.
I don't think I'm getting to anything else for Philly. Now, if we lose Harris and Maxey and Harden and Embiid and Melton, if we cut everybody, then we start talking about $3,700 Furkan Korkmaz. Jaden Springer is 3,100 shooting guard eligible.
Mac McClung,
things start getting weird. Mac McClung is available. That is a true statement. And why wouldn't they go crazy for that one,
Right.
So Philly, a lot of question marks right now.
If Paul Reed starts, he is playable at 5K, I think.
Yeah, I gave him 26 minutes as sort of a placeholder. That got him to 29 fantasy points. I think you could massage those numbers a little bit too to make that a little bit better. He's not a priority. He's going to be low owned, or at least probably should be low owned, but very much in play. He's the kind of guy that could hang a number.
Right.
And if Trez starts, probably not getting there even at 4,500.
Yeah, I kind of feel worse about Trez as a starter than Reed. Not that he's even not like because he's a bad fantasy guy or anything, because he's not. But it's more difficult for me to envision a game where they just let Trez go out there and run free for 36 minutes. There's at least that path where they're just like, yeah, Paul, go play, have fun. And he just plays, 36 minutes or something.
Agreed. Keep your eye on Philly. Philly is a much more deeper dive live before lock team. Atlanta's at full strength, though, or at least essentially at full strength. DeAndre Hunter is questionable here, but no Trae Young on the injury report, no Bogdanovic. So this isn't a spot where you're going to for aggressive value. This is where you're going for raw points. DeJounte Murray, Clint Capella potentially, Trae Young in particular at 8,900.
Yeah, Young's the one that clearly looks good here at 8,900. If you get to some Murray, like he's going to play a lot of minutes. Occasionally, he has those big games, even with Young in. I assume he will end up being much lower owned than Young. Right now, we have 14% coming to Young, 4% coming to Murray. Obviously, things are going to change massively between now and lock in terms of ownership, but I do expect that you will see a gap like that where Trae Young is pulling a lot more, and he should. Like, he's going to project better, but DeJounte Murray still gives you that upside as well. Outside of that, I don't really think there's anything. Even Capella, like he's somebody that I'm normally willing to roll the dice on at low ownership, but with him typically not playing more than like 30 minutes because of Okongwu, it's just so tough for him to ever have that game that you have to have on an 11-game slate.
I agree. Yeah, this is Trae Young, tippy top tier type play today. Murray to very large gap before I think you get to Capella.
Yep. Yeah.
And if Hunter ends up out, I don't think it matters. Would you agree?
I don't think it matters at this point. Bay is a decent value on normal slates if Hunter is out. On this slate, you probably just don't care.
Okay. Anything else for Atlanta?
Nope.
All right. Toronto Raptors, 2.5-point dogs in Boston, 222 total. Raptors are 96% for the 9 seed. They have a very outside chance to get to the 8. The Hawks are the other part of that equation. Raptors do not have the tiebreaker against Atlanta. So the Raptors have to win out. The Hawks have to lose today against Philly and on the weekend. Basically, there's nothing for the Raptors to play for. I don't know how they're going to play it. Nobody on their injury report right now for any sort of relevance. So I have Toronto in full strength. And this sort of just looks like the way that it normally looks, but worse. Get to Siakam, get to Van Vliet. Probably not get to anybody else, but you can make a path for Barnes, Pirtle, and to a lesser extent, Anunoby.
Yeah, Van Vliet and Siakam would certainly be the ones that I'm most likely to get to. They're just, the two highest ceiling guys on the slate. They're the two that are most likely to take over a game offensively. Barnes would be third, but I think it's a pretty big gap between him and then the other two. And for Van Vliet and Siakam, I don't think either of them are great either. It's just they're not going to be popular, and they do have the ability to go be one of the highest scorers on the slate.
Yep. Very easy, I think, to talk about Toronto.
Yeah. And I'm with you. I assume that they're playing full minutes. Like you said, not a ton to play for, but it's not zero. And Nick Nurse is also a crazy person.
Sure is. Okay. So now we look at Boston. Boston is locked into the 2 seed. Absolutely nothing to play for. They are just set. But Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, Time Lord, they're not on the injury report. Q-tag on Marcus Smart, Derek White, and Malcolm Brogdon. I assume one of those guys is sitting. Who the hell knows which one it is? Maybe 2, maybe all 3. Who knows? Peyton Pritchard also questionable. So basically, like anybody with a point guard vibe, not immediately available for Boston. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are going to look good enough no matter what happens, no matter who ends up being in or out, just because they have a raw point ceiling. I assume we're not really getting to Boston, though. Yeah,
I don't think so. I mean, it's Tatum, I think, is number 1, clearly from Boston, followed by Brown, followed by a ton of guys that I do not care about whatsoever.
I think you need White, Smart, and Brogdon to all be out to even sniff the idea of creating someone else from Boston.
Right. Yeah, I mean, even if you take out Smart and White, like you're getting more minutes probably for Brogdon, but he's
now playable in that scenario.
But right, he's playable, but he's still probably not anything special because he's still, coexisting with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Yeah. And there's still the chance that they're like, well, yeah, it's still Malcolm Brogdon in a meaningless game. Let's not go get him hurt right now. So, Yeah, I think Tatum is the one you get to first. He's only $400 more expensive than Brown now on DraftKings. Brown at least still gives you that ceiling. Nobody else, like everybody else on this team, if they score 50 DraftKings points, you are very, 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 very surprised. And so I wouldn't bother with them.
Yeah, to me, Brown is like, oh, I've built a lineup already, and I'm turning Tatum into Brown instead. Like,
right.
He's never going to look better than Tatum today, and he's not going to look better than like the Trae Youngs and stuff that exist for a very different salary. Brown is hard to get to other than actively being different.
Right. The only guy on this team projected for more than 1% ownership right now is Tatum. And again, those numbers are going to certainly change a bit between now and lock, but I think that the general idea there is going to hold.
I agree. Anything else for the Celtics?
Nope.
All righty, folks. For the 275 of you that are here, you got to hit that like button. That would help us out a ton. Only at 53. And we got to talk about Bet365. They are the sponsor of this show. And if you live in New Jersey, Colorado, Ohio, or Virginia, you should stop everything that you're doing right now and sign up at Bet365 using the link in the description of this video. You bet $1. You can see it on the banner too. You bet $1, you get $200 in bonus bets. Click the link in chat if you can too. Now you got to make a deposit, obviously. Your bonus bet winnings are added to your bonus bets balance, and your bonus bet wager is excluded from returns, which shouldn't be all that surprising. You got to be 21 and over. And if you have a gambling problem, or if someone you know has a gambling problem, which honestly is a really weird way to say that, call 1-800-GAMBLER. I would be on the phone on a day-to-day basis if I had to go based on people that I know having a gambling problem, because that's everybody I associate with on a given day other than my wife. Every single person that I talk to in this company, including our YouTube chat, has some sort of gambling problem. So I'm calling 1-800-GAMBLER for all of you. But if we're being honest here, $1 gets you 200. That's the deal. You or someone you know has a gambling problem. Jeez, that phone would be ringing off the hook if that were a serious statement. Just, it would sound like a Scantron sheet with all wrong answers. Just non-stop noise. We're back to Orlando, man. The Orlando Magic are 13-point dogs in Brooklyn. Orlando has absolutely nothing to play for. We have on their... This is how... I appreciate Orlando here on the back-to-back. They already put their injury report out. No Banchero, Carter, Fultz, Harris, Isaac, Wagner, or Wagner. We are getting some ownership here. And who the hell knows if anybody else sits, because we got an active Cole Anthony playing no minutes yesterday. Yikes. Yeah. So let's start with the obvious. Barring any changes to the rest of this injury report, $3,600 power forward center Bol, to me, the best option you can get to from Orlando.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Mo Wagner not being in just opens up so many minutes there. Bol's a good point per minute guy. He played 30 minutes yesterday in his start. He's still $3,600. He looks fantastic.
Nothing else to add. He's going to be one of the highest owned guys on today's slate and should be. $3,300 Goga Bitadze is the only center remaining on this team, and it's not particularly close. He is massively owned at this price tag. I don't know how many minutes that he can play. I gave him 26. That seems to be enough. How do you want to handle Goga?
At that price, it just looks really good. Even if he plays like 24 minutes, he's going to look fine. We have him in for 33.
Could be.
Yeah, like certainly could happen. It's just really difficult to get away from him at that price tag. I will say the most minutes he has played in a game this season was 22 on March 31st. He played 21 yesterday. But yeah, I mean, even if he plays like 24 minutes, he's going to project well at that price.
Okay. So we're on the same page here that for Orlando, Bol, Goga, at least the way that it looks right now, these are like two pretty clear cash game lock plays.
Yeah. And to be clear too, like I said, he's going to project well at that price. I don't mean he's going to project for like 19 points at 3,300. I mean, he's going to project for like at worst mid to upper 20s. And then as you know, if you want to be more aggressive with his projection, clearly it skyrockets.
Yeah. If you're getting anywhere north of 26 to anything north of 26 minutes, there's no ambiguity on Goga because he's a fantasy point per minute guy or more.
Right.
Now, what do we do with the rest of Orlando? The good news is it appears Caleb Houston should play today, and he just sucks no matter what. So we've got Jalen Suggs at 4,100, who may or may not play today. If Cole Anthony plays, you have to see Cole Anthony's name in a starting lineup. But if he is in at 5,700, he's the best non-freebie.
I mean, he's going to just troll everybody today. He's going to come off the bench. He's going to play 30 minutes. He's going to score 65 DraftKings points, and he's going to be like 1.3% owned by people that didn't play yesterday.
Yeah. What do you want to do with, I can't even believe I'm saying this right now, 40% owned Jay Scrubb or 36% owned Michael Carter Williams?
I can't even get a preseason minute from Jay Scrubb. It doesn't appear. Oh no, he played 2. If you include preseason, he's played 2 minutes prior to yesterday.
Do you know why he's only played 2 minutes?
Because he's a scrub.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, this is just one of the spots where I honestly know nothing about this guy. I don't know what to expect from him. We have him projected for 22, 23 DraftKings points. He's 3K flat. Sure. Hope he doesn't totally suck. Okiki at 3K. Why isn't he? We don't have him getting any ownership right now, but Okiki at 3K is going to look pretty good. Carter Williams at 3K. I don't know how many minutes he can play, but if he does play more minutes, he's a good fantasy producer.
Yeah. So Basketball Monster has doubtful tags on Suggs, Okiki, and Cole Anthony. I don't know if there's been some word out there from Mosley talking about these guys potentially being out. So maybe that's what we're going with there. But yeah, to me, Chuma Okiki looks exceptional at 3K, small forward, power forward, assuming he's in. And if Jay Scrubb is 40% owned, I don't want no Scrubs. That's a guy that's going to get no love from me at that number, unless he's starting for the Magic. Yeah, I can't help myself.
Very quickly searched for Jalen Suggs on Twitter, and I don't see anything. Doesn't mean that the quote doesn't exist, but assuming that they're in, like Jalen Suggs at 4,100 looks very good.
Yes.
Chuma Okiki at 3K, if he's starting again, looks very good.
Yes. And I would say that both of those guys are behind Bull, and Goga, though.
Yes, but I think they're also firmly ahead of everybody else.
I agree.
Like right now, we have 41% ownership coming into Jay Scrubb and none coming into Suggs or Okiki. If Suggs and Okiki are starting, like you're playing them way more than you're playing Jay Scrubb.
No doubt. What do you want to do with Cole Anthony? Let's just say he shows up in today and starting.
If he's starting,
big time priority.
If he's starting, right? Yeah, he looks great if he's starting. Okay. The tricky thing with him, like I saw somebody say on Twitter last night, like, oh, we should have known that he was going to DMP because he didn't start. He doesn't start frequently, like even when they're shorthanded. So like you could very easily get him not starting and then just back in the rotation today. You know, like where it's just like, oh, we didn't want to play him on a back-to-back and we just didn't say anything.
It certainly raised the possibility, but I don't think that was actionable yesterday. We didn't know yet.
Right. Yeah, like it's kind of like we had said with Rubio from Cleveland. Like you're going to feel better if he starts because you at least know he's stepping on the floor and not getting like a random, you know, this guy's still relevant to our team, so we're not playing him either DNP. But Cole Anthony coming off the bench just isn't weird. Like it didn't raise alarms. It's not an unusual thing for them to just keep him and Suggs away from each other in that case. So if he's coming off the bench today, I don't think you can play him. You just have to be aware that he is probably going to just troll you and put up a massive game. But if he's starting, then clearly he's playing and then he becomes a good play.
Is it safe to say that other than Caleb Houston, anyone that's starting for Orlando is at the very least an active member of rosters today?
I mean, depending who's out, Houston also could fit that. Like if Suggs, if we end up getting other guys rolled out, like Houston could be playable. Same with Scrubb. Like if he's starting, I don't think he's a good point per minute guy, but you would have the potential to just have a ton of minutes there because if he's starting, it would probably mean like Suggs isn't playing. But
he's going to be the fifth best starter no matter what the lineup looks like for Orlando.
Houston.
Yeah.
Agreed. So taking the injury report at face value right now, Houston is the only starter that I wouldn't want to play.
Okay. Keep your eyes on this one, folks. It's a treat. On the opposite side, for the Brooklyn Nets, they are 95% to be the 6th seed, 5% to be the 7. They just got to win one game, either this one or on the weekend, and they are going to be the 6th seed and avoid the play-in. They hold the tiebreaker with the Heat. So I think we're getting real Brooklyn today. They beat the piss out of this fake Orlando team, and then they'll handle their nonsense over the weekend when they don't have to care. So Bridges, Dinwiddie, Claxton, halfway to Cam Johnson. Those are your only options here.
Toga in chat thought that we were just calling Jalen Suggs Jay Scrub.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it is fair. But no, they have two.
It's his alter ego.
Right. As far as Brooklyn goes, this is back to sort of like a Miami team. Dinwiddie, Bridges, to a lesser extent, Claxton or Johnson. The guys that have the potential, the guys when you look at them and you're like, well, if they scored 50, I wouldn't, like, my mind wouldn't be blown. Like, you'd be surprised, but you wouldn't be shocked. Yeah. That's just how this team is. You're not looking to them for value. You're just looking for guys that can go score 50 plus fantasy points. That's Bridges and Dinwiddie first off, and then possibly Claxton and Johnson, but a lot less likely.
There we go. There's nothing else to say here. You can't go to anybody else. Do not roster Royce O'Neal or Dorian Finney-Smith or whatever else you want. You don't want it. 2.5 options. Maybe call it 3. A half to Claxton, a half to Johnson. Business is about to pick up. Memphis Grizzlies. So Memphis is fully available other than a doubtful tag on Santi Aldama. The Grizzlies do have an outside shot to fall to the 3 seed. They are 2 games up on the Kings, and they do not have the tiebreaker. Memphis wins either one of their next 2 games, they're fine. They just lock themselves into the 2. I assume that's what they're trying to do, at least today, particularly against a Milwaukee Bucks team that is not playing anyone of value. So, well, they are playing people of value. They're not playing any of their real people of value. There's no ownership coming into the Grizzlies right now. How do you want to handle Desmond Bane, Ja Morant, and Jaren Jackson?
I like Ja Morant in tournaments, especially. He's getting 6% ownership. He's 10-4, but that salary, again, you can pretend it's 9,400 if it makes you feel better. It's not going to matter on this slate. Taylor Jenkins has said that one of their goals wrapping up this season is to get their guys acclimated to playing postseason minutes, because Taylor Jenkins typically does play his starters less than most stars on good teams. And that's been something that's plagued him in the postseason as well, as he runs too deep of a rotation. Seems like maybe he's attempting to learn from that. And so far he's stuck to his word too. 2 games ago, Morant obviously sat last game, but 2 games ago, 35 minutes from Morant. He had played 35 and a half a couple games before that. The game in the middle, he was on pace to play 35 and a half. It turned into a blowout. He's been true to his word, and you've been getting a few extra minutes from Ja Morant. So low ownership for Morant playing actual star minutes is pretty appealing. The rest of it, I think, is tough. Bane and Jackson would be two other guys that certainly can go give you a big game, and they are playing a bit more as well. In the last game Morant played, you got 36 and a half minutes from Bane, 32 and a half from Jackson. But Morant in particular, 1.5 fantasy point per minute guy that is now just playing an extra 3 minutes or so per game and isn't popular, I think is interesting.
I think you might be underselling Bane a little bit. 38, 33, 36, and 37 minutes in regulation this last time out. I mean, I only gave him 33, and I still think he looks okay. But this is a guy probably, we're talking a realistic projection of 40 for today.
Yeah, no, I think Bane's fine. I don't have any problem with Bane.
Okay. Jackson's sort of the same scenario, but you'd need the minutes there, and there's no telling.
Right. I mean, Jackson, he played basically 36 in regulation last game. That's what it can look like when he doesn't foul. That was also a game where they were shorthanded in the front court with no Tillman, and then Aldama got hurt as well. But Bane and Jackson, I think, certainly are playable in that you can get 37 minutes from Bane. You can get 34, 35 from Jackson, and they are still good point per minute guys. Bane, I've said it a lot recently. He's always popular when Morant's out, and then he's not when Morant is in. He gets more opportunities with Morant out, but he's not as efficient. And so far this year, he's actually been basically the same point per minute guy with or without Morant. So if he gets his 37, 38 minutes here, he's still going to have the potential to, go out there and get you a bunch of fantasy points. We know Jaren Jackson's a really good point per minute guy with or without Morant. They're relatively expensive, but that doesn't matter a ton on this slate. Morant is still the one that I want to get to first, but Bane and Jackson are both fine in tournaments too.
Alrighty. And then we go to Milwaukee. No Drew Holiday, no Grayson Allen, no Chris Middleton, no Giannis Antetokounmpo, no Brook Lopez, no Pat Connaughton. That's 6 rotation guys. So, assuming like we don't totally know the starting lineup yet, I went pretty big minutes to Javon Carter and Bobby Portis. They are the 2 guys pulling the most ownership here. They are the guys pulling ownership. So let's start there. $7,800 Portis, $6K Javon Carter. To me, those are the first 2 guys you're getting to from Milwaukee with abundance.
Yeah, agreed. Price tags did move at least, but it's still they're still good plays. I mean, it would be absurd if you had like a $3,600 Javon Carter here. 6K,
he'd be in every lineup,
right? He is still playable at that price tag. You're just talking more about a 15 to 20% guy than a 100% guy. But without everybody else on the floor, he can actually produce fantasy points. He's been about, I think. It's not loading for me right now, but off the top of my head, I think he's about a fantasy point per minute guy without Drew, Giannis, Middleton on the floor.
23% usage rate in that time.
What'd you say?
23% usage rate when those guys aren't on.
Yeah, he's been very different this year. Like, even in games he has started where like one of them has been in, but the other 2 have been out, he's been a solid fantasy producer. When 2 or more of them are in, he is essentially useless. But 439 minutes without Drew, Middleton, or Giannis on the floor, 23% usage, 1.02 DraftKings points per minute, 24.5% assist percentage. Just going to make him look good. Portis has played 392 minutes without those guys, 1.22 DraftKings points per minute, nearly a 26% usage rate, 20% rebounding percentage. And that's not including Brook Lopez being off. So those 2 are certainly going to look good here.
We are on the same page. What do we do with the rest of this team? Assuming we get like Matthews starting, Crowder starting, probably Beauchamp, maybe Ingles or AJ Green. Do you get to anybody else here? Because some of the salaries are already slightly up. So I see one guy that you can get to, and I probably don't get to much else.
I don't see a lot else. I mean, like if Beauchamp starts at 3,600, he could be okay. Ingles is already priced up a little bit. I don't really see much else.
Yeah, I think if Beauchamp isn't starting, I don't think that you're getting to him, and I don't really think you're getting to anything else from Milwaukee.
Right. Like Ingles, I guess, would be the one guy that I look to, and it's just like, maybe he plays more minutes than I expect, and he has a good game, but I don't think I would end up getting to him.
Okay. Crazy that 6 main rotation pieces for Milwaukee are out, and it doesn't look crazy.
Well, they're another one of those teams where like they're a really good NBA team because their bench is basically just guys that fit the roles that they need. But it makes it so when your starters get ruled out, you're just getting a bunch of shitty point per minute guys playing more minutes, as opposed to like Orlando, where they're a bad NBA team, but they have 2 teams worth of actual NBA level like scorers, basically.
Yep. All right, we'll keep it moving. New York Knicks, 7.5 point dogs in New Orleans, 226 total. Knicks, 100% locked into the 5 seed. Absolutely nothing to play for. No Jalen Brunson, no Julius Randle. That is already set in stone. Q tag on RJ Barrett, and he's out with an he's been sick. It's not an injury. So seems to me that they're going to be playing him today, assuming like the illness is fine. They have no incentive to do so. There is no ownership coming into the Knicks. These guys are already priced up. Emmanuel quickly is 9K today. Are you getting to the Knicks if Barrett is in? Are you getting to the Knicks if Barrett is out?
I still think Quickly's kind of interesting at 9K. Given how salary doesn't matter a ton on this slate. Tibbs is crazy. And so the assumption on him should always be that he's going to run his starters into the ground. 2, he did a press conference essentially saying that he is going to continue to run his guys into the ground. He was asked if basically, if he was going to take his foot off the gas now that they're not playing for anything. And he told the reporter he did not understand their question. He then followed up by saying that they will be, if guys are banged up, they won't play, but that they're still not where they want to be. They have things to work on. And essentially, if you're playing, you're playing. And I haven't seen anything to change that. Last game, Quickly played 40 minutes. Grimes played 43 and a half. Toppin played 43. Hart played 37. Mitchell Robinson played 30. I still think you can get to a 9K Quickly. $7,300 Barrett has a ceiling. He's going to go out there and shoot a lot if he's in. Toppin is more likely to play a lot of minutes if Barrett is out.
Yeah.
Same goes for Hart. Grimes is up to 7,700. I don't care. I'm not doing it. I don't care. Quickly in particular, I still think is pretty interesting.
If Barrett's in, Quickly is the only guy that I think that you can like get some volume on. Barrett would be 2. I would have a very difficult time getting to Obi Toppin unless RJ Barrett happens to be out. And even then, he's not going to look great.
Yeah, I think Barrett needs to be out for me to really be interested in Toppin or Hart. Because if Barrett's in, you're just getting a weird like rotation there where Barrett is, you assume, playing at least 30, could play 40, but playing, at least 30. And then it makes it easier for Hart to play minutes at the 4, which takes minutes away from Toppin. You still have Grimes, who would play anywhere between like 28 and 46. So, I mean, it just creates like it creates a situation where the playing time floor for guys like Toppin and Hart becomes low enough that I don't really want to play them. If Barrett's out, they're still expensive enough and salary does matter enough to where they're not going to be priorities, but you can at least look at it more comfortably with Barrett out and say like, all right, yeah, Josh Hart's probably playing 36 minutes. Obi Toppin's probably playing 36 plus. And there's at least like a little bit safer path to their playing time.
I don't think it matters today, but we got the Mitchell Robinson smash game on Wednesday. There's no real minutes number that I could give him to make him relevant for today.
Yes, at center, I don't really think you can.
Okay.
He's comparable to like Clint Capella, where they're guys where typically I like rostering them at low ownership, but on most slates, if they go for like 35 DraftKings points, you're happy. Given their relative playing time restrictions, it's just so hard for those guys. I keep using 50 as the number that, just like a raw number. And I think it's 45, 50 is kind of the raw score where it's like, okay, well, I'm happy that I played that guy. It's very difficult for either of them to do that in 30 minutes or less.
We finally got a team where it's just like, holy shit, they're playing for all of the things. The Pelicans side of this one, they have a 13% chance at the 5 seed, 12-6, 15-7, 18-8, and 42-9. They can basically be anywhere up and down the spectrum. They have a 25% chance to simply not even be in the play-in. 75% chance to be in the play, and they could host a single game. They could host the second game. They can be on the road for all bets are off for the Pelicans. They are doing nothing other than trying to win this basketball game. The teams that they can be tied with, they hold the tiebreaker over the Clippers and Warriors. They do not hold the tiebreaker against the Lakers or the Timberwolves. The moral of the story here for the Pelicans, everybody's on the table, and I think we're getting major minutes for the real guys. They did go to OT last time, but we got basically 40 minutes out of Ingram, Murphy, McCollum, and Jones. Brandon Ingram is projected for 20% ownership. CJ McCollum is not really projected for that much ownership, but he's another guy that should be projected around 40 fantasy points. Let's start with Ingram. How good does he look today?
Love Ingram. Small forward eligible, playing huge minutes, doing everything for the offense, playmaking and scoring, and on a team that actually needs to win. So absolutely love Ingram. McCollum looks good. He's taken a step back in terms of production with Ingram deciding that this is absolutely his team and he is going to do everything. But you're still talking about, a 24, 25% usage rate for McCollum, 20% assist percentage. Both of those numbers well behind what Ingram is doing, but you're still getting a ton of minutes from McCollum. He's still reasonably priced. So I don't have any issues there. Outside of that, I don't really think there's anything. If you wanted to make a case for Joval against a Mitchell Robinson-led front court, you could, but we have seen Larry Nance fully take back his backup center role. So it makes it pretty tough for me to want to go to Joval.
Yeah. McCollum's still a fantasy point per minute over the last 30 days.
Yeah.
I think he looks viable. Kind of interesting to me in a GPP if he's going to be like sub 10% owned, because I don't think him going for 50 fantasy points would be all that crazy here against the Knicks. So
no, I mean, he's probably playing 38 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, if he goes for 50 fantasy points at, let's just say 36 minutes, that's 1.39 fantasy points per minute. That is not like even an outlandish day.
Yeah, that's like a normally good day.
Yeah. So, but him and Ingram, exceptional and very easy to get to. It's going to be hard for me to want to go to Murphy or Jones, but the minutes are there at least.
Yeah, the minutes are there. It's just the fact that they play with Ingram, McCollum, and sometimes Jovel.
All righty. One last time, folks, hit that like button if you can. And if you are interested in baseball, there's 2 slates today, which I think is pretty interesting to see. You've got a 6-gamer that locks at 3:00 on DraftKings. You've got another 5-gamer that locks at 7:20.
On FanDuel, they actually broke it up even better, sort of. So like DraftKings broke it up the way that I would prefer it, where they went like 6 games, 5 games. I think you have $50K to first on both. FanDuel broke it up more than that, but they actually have 4 slates where they have, you know, like a 4-figure payout to first. Well, 3 with a 4-figure, and then the main slate in their like $5 tournament or whatever. So there's 4 separate slates on FanDuel that have at least 4 games today.
Can't beat it. If you want access to all of the data that we have at Stochastic, you are in luck. $9, 9 days. You see the graphic on the screen. The promo code is PLAYBALL. Click the link in the description if you can. That's projections, ownership, top stacks, top pitchers, all of our top data for baseball, plus Discord if you want to pop your head in there. Good luck. Baseball channel is a lot better than the basketball one. Savages in the NBA channel that will run you off. But baseball, it's a bit of a better crew. Our NBA people are absolute craziness. So just luckily for us, that season is over. Sign up for our baseball product, guys. $9 for $9. $9 for 9 days. You can't beat that deal. Come check out everything we have. We talk about it a lot, but I love our baseball tools. All right, we got another ridiculous one here. Chicago Bulls. Q tag on Alex Caruso, Zach LaVine, and DeMar DeRozan, but for some reason, not on Vooch. The Bulls have absolutely nothing to play for. They are firmly locked into the 10 seed. So they are going on the road for the play-in game no matter what. I assume these guys are going to sit. I have no idea if they do. If they're all in, it's the same as we normally have. You can play DeRozan, LaVine, and Vooch, and no one else. But if we lose DeRozan and LaVine, then we start to unlock some things.
Yeah, I mean, if they're both out and Vooch actually plays, which I don't get, but Vooch would certainly look good.
Yeah.
Kobe White would look pretty good at 5K. If we get Vooch added and he sits, like White looks even better. Because White is somebody that, keep in mind, you know, he's not a very good point per minute guy this year on this team, but it's because of his role. As long as Zach LaVine is out there alongside him, or DeMar DeRozan is out there alongside him, you don't need or want Kobe White taking a lot of shots. If those guys are not in the game, Kobe White has the green light to go out there and chalk, and Kobe White likes to do that. So 5K Kobe White, if those main pieces are out, is going to look really good. You potentially get value with guys like the Sunmu, Alex Caruso, but Kobe White's the one that I think ends up looking really interesting if these guys sit.
Caruso also questionable, and that dude's always hurt. So like, makes sense to me that he's not playing shit today.
Yeah. Speaking of hurt a lot too, why is Beverly playing?
No idea. On the off chance that Vooch gets added a little bit later, Andre Drummond is 3,500.
Right.
So that becomes like he laps Goga pretty quickly if Vooch happens to end up getting added to this injury report.
I mean, if Vooch ends up not playing, this almost just turns into like every center is unplayable except for Goga and Drummond. Yeah,
it really does. So you got to keep your eye on Chicago. Hopefully we get some of this news throughout the day and prior to lock. Like, if you were heading into lock right now, would you just treat it like DeRozan and LaVine aren't playing and like just try to get more? Considering you can swap off of bad Chicago value if you need to with Sacramento, Phoenix. Like, you've got options after it.
I think that's a reasonable way to approach it. The reason that I always hesitate to do that has more to do with my process. If I do that, unless I also just like end up basically changing ownership projections for Chicago guys, I'm going to end up just jamming in Chicago, and then we're going to get the news and they're going to end up being 5 times as popular as they're projected to be right now. And so, like, for example, I did do it last night to an extent with Chris Dunn because I was pretty sure Horton Tucker wasn't going to play, but like the result, and you know, I was fine with it. So it's why I still went ahead and did it. But the result is I ended up playing before lock, like 45% Chris Dunn, because he's projected for like 6% ownership. But then when you get Horton Tucker ruled out, he ends up being 25% owned. And so if I'd known his ownership, I would have played like 20% probably instead of 40. So it ends up being tricky within my process to do that. If I just say like, oh, I don't think they're going to play, I'm going to end up playing like 100% Kobe White, when at his actual ownership number, I would probably play like 40 or something like that. So for me, I don't typically do it just because of the way my process works. If you're somebody that isn't doing the same things that I do before lock, it is a perfectly fine way to approach that situation.
Okay. On the Dallas side of this one, we know what's going on. They got to win out. if they want to make the playoffs. They don't have the tiebreaker with the Thunder. They need to pray that the Thunder lose this weekend. Dallas has to win both games. That's where we stand. By the way, the Thunder will be playing the Memphis Grizzlies on Sunday, and there's a decent chance that the Grizzlies are not playing anybody of value. So this might be over for Dallas in theory, but they're going to let it rip. Luka and Kyrie are playing massive minutes. I can't imagine going to anybody else from Dallas, but even at 12-4 for Luka, I don't know how you get away from it today.
Yeah, I mean, they're both just going to look good because of how many minutes they're likely to play. Luka's still been a fantasy point and a half per minute with Kyrie, and he's just likely to play 40 plus minutes. Kyrie's been around 1.2 to 1.25 DraftKings points with Luka, likely to play 40 minutes. They both look good. By the way, did you see the very crazy final score of the Mavs and Kings the other day, where the Kings did not rest anybody despite being 6-point dogs, and then they lost?
Wait, who was the underdog?
The Kings, the team that is. Yeah.
Man, how are the Kings underdogs? They're better than Dallas, right?
Well, clearly they were just resting Sabonis and Fox.
Oh, yeah. You mean the game where they didn't rest?
Yeah, 35 minutes from Sabonis. Yeah, that one.
Morons.
They were up by they were up double digits at halftime, and I was just like, chat is going to be so fucking annoying tomorrow. And then Dallas came back and won, and I was really happy.
That's good. Is Luka the best play on the slate?
No.
Pay up, I mean. Like, obviously, like the bowl and shit are.
Yeah. Sorry. No, he's not. Yes.
Okay. If Luka, I'm just going to say, I have Luka projected for 62 fantasy points today. Let's just say let's say it's 60 if you want. Or is it higher?
Yeah, so we have 57-6, but that's in 36 minutes. If he plays 36 minutes, Dallas won this game by 30 points.
Yeah. I went to 38 minutes, which is how you get to 62. Let's just call it 60. If he scores 60 today, is that the same scenario that we were sort of talking about with Durant? Like, you just have to have him because it's too many fantasy points? Maybe not have to. Okay, I ran the crunch with Durant, and he's in 70% of optimals out of your top 100 lineups.
Yeah, but he's also, a lot of those optimals are with guys that you were never going to play.
Sort of.
Like, if
Luka scores 60, are you happy today?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
If you guarantee me Luka scores 60, he's probably in like every lineup that I make. It still doesn't mean that you have to have him though, because if like Goga sucks or Bol sucks and John Morant goes for 55 while Luka goes for 60 and Jason Tatum goes for 55, like there's Luka would still end up in the optimal because there's going to be some random 3K dude on the Bulls that scores 40 points. But from a actual like functional standpoint, you probably don't have to have him, but he's still not hurting you. Like I'll take my chances if you tell me Luka scores 60.
Okay. That's why he looks exceptional today.
Right.
Because like 60 is your average Luka Doncic game today.
Right. I'm surprised he's only projected for 16% ownership right now.
That's where I'm taking this conversation. I had like 40-something% of Luka this past Wednesday. And in this scenario, I feel like it's sort of the same situation because they're letting him rip. They want to win this game, and they win this game when Kyrie and Luka do Kyrie and Luka type shit.
Right.
If he's got to get to 60, and I'm just like, okay, I booked 60, this is where we need to be, then I think that he's hitting 60 fantasy points like 50% of the time or more.
Right.
At which point, give me all of him at 16% ownership.
Yeah, I mean, what it comes down to, I guess, is you still, if you're thinking about this from like a 150 lineup standpoint, if you are just jamming in Luka, which I think is perfectly fine, it is going to limit the times that you have combinations where it's like Morant plus Ingram plus Tatum, or any sort of combination with like Ingram, Tatum, Morant, other pay up guys, Lakers guys.
You're turning a 3 pay up option to a 2 pay up option, basically.
Right. Or even somebody like Trae Young. Like it's going to limit what you can build around like a Trae Young, Brandon Ingram type start. Like you put in Young, Ingram value, you can get some other good pieces in there. If you go Luka, you probably can still get Young and Ingram, but like you're going to have just dumpster diving across the rest of your lineup type stuff. So That's like that's why like I think Luka only has a 20% chance of being optimal right now. That, and we also, have his projection, his minutes a little bit lower than I think it will end up at. But like, even call it, like, let's say we project him for 38 instead of 36, call it 25-30% chance of being optimal. That's still just because you have to take into account all of the other times that, Ingram, Young, Morant, those guys go off, and Luka does end up being kind of unnecessary.
Do you see the most recent message in chat? It's when you know what the right answer is.
Yeah.
If you don't need Luka on this slate, please send me all of the contests that you want me to be in.
Like, I don't think
I want what you
Luka.
do.
He's just still clearly
one need is a
players.
relative statement. But
I mean, that's as useful a comment as yesterday when he said just being cheap doesn't make you a good play. Like, yes, obviously that is true, but also the way that you mean it is very dumb.
Yeah, like this is. I want to get to Luka. I want to get of guys that are paid, like, priced out. I want to get to Luka more than I want to get to any other play on the slate.
That's the only one that I think is probably close for me is Ingram.
Fair.
And that has to do with his position.
Yeah. And the fact that they've got something to play for.
Right. He's one of the only pay-ups on a team where that they want to win.
Yeah. Trae Young is probably third for me there.
Yeah.
Either way, look, moral of the story, Luka is a great play today because he's easy to get to.
Yep. And
Kyrie is also a very good play today at 9,900. I don't want to short sell him at all. Like, he looks... Is Kyrie all that, other than position? I mean, to me, he looks very similar to Ingram. He just happens to be a guard and not a small forward.
I mean, Ingram's playing a much bigger role than Kyrie is right now.
Yeah. But, like, I like Kyrie way more than I like, Siakam at $600 cheaper than that.
Yeah, sure.
We're not playing anybody else from Dallas, right?
No.
Okay. Golden State, 7.5-point favorites in Sacramento, and be ready because this line might be 20 by the time we get to lock. Golden State is all over the map. 17% chance to be the 5 seed, 33 to be the 6, which means they have a 50% chance to not be in the play-in and a 50% chance to be in the play-in. They can be anywhere from 5 to 9 with reasonable odds. So they're playing this one straight out, best I can tell. Everybody that's normally available is available. So we're talking about liking Steph Curry, tolerating Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, and probably not doing anything else.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Curry looks good, should play big minutes. He's obviously a very high upside guy. He's getting 12% ownership. I don't have any issue with that. He's, a little bit more expensive than Ingram, quite a bit more expensive than Trae Young. And again, that doesn't matter in the sense of like, it's going to be difficult to get him into lineups. It does just matter a little bit from a combination standpoint. Like, what else can you get with those guys? But yeah, Steph clearly looks like a very good play. Klay did lose his small forward eligibility, which sucks. But still gives you a very high ceiling at shooting guard. Draymond, I think, is pretty tough to get to. He's just one of those guys where, like, on a lot of slates at 7,100, playing like 35, 36 minutes, he would look good because you just need like somebody in that price range to round out your lineup at the forward spot. You're just not really going to need that today. So and he's much less likely than somebody like Curry or Klay to just give you that blow up game.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, on a day where you only need 45 from him, you're still interested in Draymond. That's like fine now, but not necessarily like the way that you get there. There's not much else to say for Golden State. They make it pretty easy. You know who doesn't make it easy?
The
Sacramento Kings
with their whole team on the injury report.
Questionable tags on De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Huerter, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis, Malik Monk, Davion Mitchell, and Trey Lyles. Matthew Dellavedova out for reasons that make no sense to me. Harrison Barnes, not one of the names that are on this list. So do with that what you will. Are you assuming they're all done?
I assume they're not playing this.
Because this is a massive, massive swing piece that changes the entire scope of today's slate. And this game tips off at 10 o'clock. I don't know how late they're going to try to pull their bullshit, but post-lock would be really bad for a lot of people. I think you need to let it rip and just say that those, at least the real dudes are out.
What is Kevin Huerter's injury?
Right popliteus. Is that what that says?
Yeah, that is what that says.
Popliteus? Popliteus muscle is a small stabilizing muscle in the knee.
They got really creative with that one.
Yeah, man, just say knee.
Well, they already used knee on Davion Mitchell.
They did. But then they used 2 on Huerter. Injury management, too.
Right.
Okay. So Dirty Dance is going to get Mitchell at less than 1%. He is also on the injury. So don't let that one rip. Let's talk about this holistically based on the names that aren't on this list. Terrence Davis is not on this list. He is a $3,900 shooting guard small forward. Is that the best option you're going to get from Sacramento right now, depending on who starts at center?
Yes, assuming these guys don't play. Like that's the caveat here. If they, for some reason, list all these guys as questionable with fake injuries and then say that they're all playing, then clearly
Fuck
ignore
them, first of all.
What'd you say?
Fuck them, first of
all. But yeah, assuming that most or all of these guys are sitting with their made-up injuries, Terrence Davis looks great. Like it's like Kobe White, sort of, except Terrence Davis doesn't even have the off switch that Kobe White does, which is why Terrence Davis doesn't get rotation minutes like Kobe White does. But when Terrence Davis plays, he's just going to pile up fantasy points.
Let's treat it like this. Everybody that we talk about for Sacramento, let's talk about them in the lens that we're assuming they are named in the starting lineup.
Okay, yeah, Terrence Davis ends up being like one of the he is in the Bol Goga territory if he is starting. Especially if he is starting with everybody else out.
Yeah. If Metu or Rashawn Holmes start at center, I think that they start looking like sort of like Goga.
Holmes in particular.
Ooh, I would have said Metu in particular. Also. Yeah.
I mean, Holmes
I don't know what they're going to do with Holmes. I mean, this dude's been on ice all year.
Right. I was just from a point per minute standpoint, I trust Holmes more.
Interesting. I've got Metu as the better option.
From a willing to run them into the ground, I would trust Metu more. You have Metu as a better point per minute. It's not loading for me. I just thought Holmes was better.
My baseline is Metu 1, Holmes 8.5.
Really?
Yeah. But like, Rashawn Holmes has basically not played in 2 years though. So like he's starting to really regress to the mean. So there's a path where you can say that they're pretty comparable.
Alex Len
could also good. So that was the next thing. Alex Len is 4,100. So he's still free-ish. I like him less if he's starting. We're talking about another fantasy point per minute guy.
Wait, you like Len less if he's starting? What?
I like Len less if he's starting than I like Metu if he's starting or Holmes if he's starting.
I would still like Len quite a bit if he's starting. Like he's another good point per minute guy. Also, with regard to Rashawn Holmes, I thought he had a game, so I pulled it up. Mid-January, January 18th, randomly played 31 minutes.
Okay, that helps. It's in there, I guess.
The previous games, it's not like there was like a ramping up period. He played his games in January were 14, 9, 5, 11, 2, 2, 4, 31.
Yeah. If he's starting, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love him. PJ Dozier, shooting guard, small forward. I don't have a damn clue how many minutes this guy can play, but if he starts, put him into the list of guys that are very, very highly owned.
Yeah, you get not a bad point per minute guy in the limited times that he's gotten minutes throughout his career.
After that, I don't know. I don't know what Keon Ellis is, but he becomes a thing at the flat minimum.
Yeah.
If they 52. End up playing guys like Lyles or Mitchell or like Edwards is already 4K. He's probably not going to be all that interesting, but is at least playable if he's starting.
He probably plays a ton.
You would think.
Yeah. So Terrence Davis, hands down, if he starts, is the guy that I feel the most confident in because there's no reason for them not to give him a bunch of minutes, and he's a really good point per minute guy. The centers are all good point per minute guys, but you do run into the risk of like, do they run a 3-man center rotation or do they actually let the starter just go out there and play a bunch of minutes. Whereas like
I think you could also get Metu playing alongside Holmes.
Yeah, you can get Metu at the 4 as well, especially if all these guys are out.
Yeah.
Like if Trey Lyles is out along with everybody else, you can certainly get Metu at the 4 also. Kessler Edwards, I would trust his playing time. He's not a good point per minute guy, but I just would trust them to have him out there playing a ton of minutes. Dozier, Keon Ellis, if everybody's out, are likely just walking into a ton of minutes also. 52 total minutes this year for Keon Ellis, just shy of a fantasy point per minute for whatever that's worth. Has been wildly efficient, though, which probably won't hold.
Yeah, no. Got to keep an eye on Sacramento. Watch the deeper dive and live before lock. But this is going to be that like magic Cavs spot from yesterday where we free up a lot. This is how the Sacramento Kings news breaking correctly is how you want to have Luka and everything, or like all these payoff options. This is one of the linchpins. Good luck for that. We're closing it out. Final game, Phoenix Suns, 8.5-point dogs in LA, taking on the Lakers. What a day for the Lakers to be able to grab the Suns. Now, we don't know the Suns' official injury report. They did play yesterday. They have absolutely nothing to play for here today. They are locked into the 4 seed. I saw a quote that said they might play like the first half with some of these guys. So don't play anybody that like whose name you really recognize from the Suns. I can't imagine going to Paul or Booker or Ayton. I'm guessing most of these guys are out. What stands out most for you for Phoenix? I didn't even project this team today. I gave everybody 24 minutes and I walked away.
I think that's a reasonable approach. If they flat out rest the starters and Cam Payne starts at 4,200, he's going to look good. Like that's a very good point per minute guy. I don't know what they'll do because we did get Monty Williams saying that like he needs these guys to get in postseason shape. So I don't know if maybe they just get them some cardio in the first half and then bench them. If they do that, it makes the whole team just suck basically, or at least be risky. Like you could still take a chance on Cameron Payne playing like backup minutes in the first half and then real minutes in the second half.
He has like, certainly 28 total at that point.
Right. If they rest everybody though, and Payne starts, I would like him quite a bit. Then the rest of it just becomes sort of hoping to just land on the right pieces. Like Terrence Ross at 4K could be good. Saban Lee at 3K could be good. I have more confidence in the Kings guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Like if Josh Okogie starts, I don't know if they play him, if they yank everybody that's real.
Right.
And he becomes really good if you think that he can play 30 minutes and you don't have the other real guys out there.
Right. Also, with regard to Cameron Payne, if they bench the starters and Cameron Payne doesn't start, I'd be hesitant because I would think that there's a chance that they're just still keeping him in a backup role and not trying to, run him into the ground. If he starts,
or they Cole Anthony him.
Right. Yeah, they could do that too. If he starts, I assume that they are going to actually try and get him some more minutes because he is a functional part of their playoff rotation.
So this one is a gigantic question mark. Hopefully we get some clarification by the time we get to the deeper diver live before lock. There's really nothing else to add. The good news is Phoenix doesn't have like the ultra free squares at the bottom. So like it's not as appealing as what happens if Sacramento kicks everybody to the curb.
Right.
And then we close it out with the Lakers. The Lakers have all things to play for. They can be the 5 seed, 6% chance, a 30% chance to get to 6. So they have a 36% chance to be out of the play-in, which also means they have a 64% chance to be in the play-in. 25 at 7, 28 at 8, 10 at 9. They have no choice. They are playing to win the game. AD is 10-7. LeBron James is 10-2. If you want to tell me you want to get to D'Angelo Russell, I think that's fine. But this is an AD and LeBron thing, and they look okay.
Yeah, they both look pretty good. They're in that. They're similar to Steph for me. I think a little bit behind Ingram, just because again, Ingram, not that he doesn't play with anybody else, but Ingram is just taken over as the clear one, whereas LeBron and Davis still cut into each other a bit. Curry, still has Clay to contend with, and doesn't give you the same level of peripherals as Ingram does. But I think Curry, LeBron, Davis, all similar, all projected like 10 to 15% ownership. LeBron has the highest optimal percentage of the group because he is a small forward at 10-2. You got 35 minutes last game from LeBron on the second half of a back-to-back. Davis played 32. They had both played overtime the game before that. You should be expecting big minutes from these guys in this game.
I temper it slightly because if you know that everybody's out for Phoenix, then I don't know if we're expecting big minutes out of LeBron and AD. They're just going to play whatever they need to win at that point.
Yeah, but it's not like they're going to screw around and like say, oh yeah, we're going to play 14 minutes in the first half because we probably can squeak it out by 5 in the fourth quarter. Like they might, it's to me, then it just becomes a typical blowout situation. Like I wouldn't expect the Lakers to risk losing this game by running bad rotations early. They might just destroy Phoenix and you don't get a fourth quarter. But yeah, like I don't think they have the luxury of saying, like, oh yeah, well Phoenix is resting guys, so let's just take it easy in the first half, and then if we have to play more down the stretch, we will. Like that would be incredibly risky and dumb, I think.
Yeah, I don't think what I'm actually trying to say is super actionable, but like if we know that all the Phoenix starters are out, then like I can't project LeBron for 36. I think I'm 34 or 35.
I think you should just project them however you would normally project a game where they are, say 10-point home favorites. Like I think they were playing. I
don't know what this line looks. I think they're 15-point home favorites here once we get news.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my point here is like I think that you're going to get a very condensed first half rotation, third quarter rotation, and then if the game is over, they don't come back. I don't think you're going to get flattened rotations and that they're going to take this game for granted.
That I agree with. I don't think it's going to matter all that much either way. Like you're getting to AD and LeBron James, whether you project them for 34 minutes or not. Like their salaries are meaningless. They're just pay up options that you can get to. The problem is there's a lot of guys that look like AD and LeBron today, whether that you want to say that that's Curry or Tatum or Morant or Jaylen Brown.
And this all goes back to why I pushed back a little bit on Luka, where I think he's clearly a very good play, but you do have all of these other guys that are in meaningful games and certainly can either outscore Luka, like they all can beat Luka, or at least be close to him. And salary doesn't matter in the sense that, like strictly point per dollar like it normally does, but it does still matter in that if you're playing LeBron instead of Luka, you do have $2,000 to upgrade some of your shitty value pieces to guys that,
real NBA players.
Right. Yeah. Actual NBA players.
This is a hell of a slate. You ready to get out of here?
Yeah.
We went long, but we had to. I mean, there's just some places in this slate that it takes a little bit of extra time. Deeper dive later today at 5 with Adam. Live before lock at 6. You're going to need both of those shows. Thank you for being here, everybody. Plenty of other content coming out on this channel and the Odd Shopper channel. Good luck to everybody. We will talk to you again later.